Gotham Season 4, Episode 5, The Blade's Path. Now this was an interesting episode. We do get to see, officially, Solomon Grundy, and I love that. You know, we got to see Butch come back as Solomon Grundy. The way they do it is that he was not initially Solomon Grundy. He becomes Solomon Grundy because his body gets dumped into the water, and he ends up becoming Solomon Grundy because of some chemicals in the water at Indian Hill, which could have either led to Solomon Grundy or probably Swamp Thing if they wanted to do that. So it was cool to see him as Solomon Grundy. I thought he survived being shot in the head because he was already Solomon Grundy, and they were going to do some story element where he didn't remember that. I would have liked that better, to be totally honest, because I thought, like I said, I thought that's the only reason he actually lived was because he was Solomon Grundy, and it was like his power like sort of activating or reactivating because he'd been living for so long and he just forgot. But that was not the case. He just happened to actually live. And then, you know, Gotham sucks. So they just dumped his body because the hospital needed one bed. And I would assume, you know, some equipment as well. So they just dump his body, and of course the chemicals interact with him, makes him stark white, gives him the white hair and everything, and regrows his hand as well. And he is officially Solomon Grundy because he randomly comes across this camp of people, and they're singing the song. And I was like, that's so weird, but I like it. It fits Gotham. And then it got super creepy when the record played. For some reason, it was like 100 times creepier when it was like a kid singing on the record. I was like, that makes it just scary. Like when the guys were singing, it was just like, they're singing this weird song, and then the record played, and I was like, that's creepy now. So Butch becomes Solomon Grundy because of the song. That is an actual rhyme for people who aren't familiar with the character. That is the actual rhyme from the comics. You know, him being born, getting ill, and then dying, and then being reborn and stuff. That's the actual song. So I thought that was cool. But he ends up going into town. That's where he ends up running into Ed, who is still having a pretty down time. He's dealing with some really crappy stuff. He can't even rob a pharmacy. Like, the doctor just lies to him. It's like, you know, we have... I think he actually called it, like, Smartiva. So, of course, he's, like, looking through, and the doctor picks up the thing that you put the receipts on, and he slams it into his hand, and he's able to get away and call the cops. And I was like, wow, Ed's just on a downslope at this point, so he's all messed up, and that's how he ends up running into Butch after Butch got into the crazy situation, beating up the campers and stuff. So Butch knocks him out. He ends up waking up later, and then that's kind of how their journey truly begins, because Ed realizes, I can utilize this guy's strength. Like, even though it's Butch, and he should have some ill will towards me, he doesn't remember, and he's insanely strong. He can just clock you on the head and, you know, take you down. So they get into this big brawl, and I'm probably gonna keep calling him Butch, but because it's Butch, I'm gonna stick with Butch, even though Solomon, he's officially like Solomon Grundy now. But Butch beats all these dudes up. Like, he's tossing people left and right, just punching them. Everybody's down. Then his arm gets set on fire, and you know, he thinks that Ed is leaving him. He's like, you know, friend, don't go. And he's just saying hot, hot, and he's waving his hand. And then Ed actually does come back, and he throws water on his arm, and it's like, cool, like, I can help you, and you can help me. Mostly it was, you can help me. And it was like, you know, with your muscles, we can make me smart again. We can get money, which will help me be smart again. He's like, and then we can figure out all your stuff too. But, you know, let's be friends. So that's how we actually get our final scene in the episode, which was fairly surprising, with them going to this, you know, underground arena. They talk about, you know, setting up a match and everything. So it's like, all right, well, your arm's burnt up. We'll let you see the doc. We'll patch you up, and then you can get in the ring and we'll, you know, figure everything out. So then we actually find out who this doctor is, and I was quite surprised, but we have the... I don't know how this is going to play out. I think I mentioned this when Falcone, the new Falcone, I still don't remember her first name, but I think I mentioned this when she first came into the show. Nothing ever works out with Jim. It's always someone's crazy, or he screws up something and somebody leaves, but then no one ever actually leaves. People have died and still come back in the case of Barbara. So they're always in Gotham. They're never fully gone. They always find their way back, or they just never left. So I don't know what this means with them, you know, kind of reintroducing Lee at the end of this episode and her officially being in the show again, but I am excited for it. I am excited to see how this plays out. She, of course, knows Ed, so I'm curious how, like, their first interaction is going to be something weird. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. It could be, I'm assuming it'll be funny, and I'm curious how much she's going to care. Considering what she's doing right now, working in this underground club, she'll just be like, this is crazy, and it's probably going to lead to something bad, but I can't stop it, and I don't really care to stop it. I feel like that might be where she's at right now, but she's in an interesting place, and it was cool to see her, so I am looking forward to what they do with her character. But nice little way to end it, and, you know, her going into this crazy interaction, and I'm sure Ed and Butch will be thrown out very fast, because Butch is probably going to, like, blow through somebody super quick and, like, punch their heart out or something crazy. So then it'll be like, nope, too strong, you gotta go. So I feel like that might be how that plays out. But definitely an interesting way to end things off, reintroducing Lee into this season. So I'm just certainly looking forward to that. The rest of the story I thought was really well done too. Although I'm insanely curious because I just freaking figured it out. I was like, there's something going on and I just don't understand because the ending didn't make sense. I was like, there's no way that this is the actual ending to this episode. But I'm just going to go through it and then say my theories at the end. But the main story is, of course, Bruce is still kind of reeling from basically the crappy decision that he made to not give, Ra's the blade. And so he freaks out and is like, you know what, I'm going to take this blade and I am going to kill Ra's al Ghul. So he breaks into the prison and he's about to kill him, and of course he's there, and I knew he wasn't asleep. I'm like, he's probably just waiting to see what happens. And so of course Bruce, he takes the blade out and he looks and is like, I can't kill this guy, and he's about to walk away. And of course he's like, you weak, foolish boy. And so that's when the guards come in and Bruce is like, I'm Bruce Wayne, like, stop him or whatever. And that's of course when we find out that all the guards have been, killed off, and the League of Assassins has basically kind of moved on in. So Bruce is taken to this crazy underground within the prison, and that's when, naturally, Alfred kind of loses it and is like, well, something's gone wrong, I can't find him, so I need Jim's help. So the two of them end up working together. Of course, they end up going to the prison, they know what's happening, they beat some people up, and as they finally get to the bottom, we see Bruce actually stabbing Ra's al Ghul with the blade. Like, he freaked out, and he actually did it, and so his body gets all crazy and then it shrivels up and stuff. We see his true form, which is basically what he turned into almost, except less skin, or more skin, the true form before he got stabbed. And so he shrivels up and everything, and that's when Bruce is there with the blade after stabbing him, and of course that's when Jim and Alfred see it happening. And in that moment I was just like, I don't really understand this because it's Ra's al Ghul and he can't be dead because it's Ra's al Ghul. And then I was like, okay, this can't be a trick because he's there and he got stabbed and he shriveled up into bones like a mummy. And I was just like, I don't understand because it's Ra's al Ghul. How do you bring in the League of Assassins and Ra's al Ghul and then he's dead? It doesn't make sense to me. And then, I didn't remember this in the episode because I'm stupid, but I just remembered as I was saying, it was like, oh, maybe that's what happened with Barbara, where they did that weird thing through the glass and he gave her power beyond her wildest imagination. And she was like, what the hell was that? And he's like, you'll find out. And I was like, okay, that should come, a ways down the line. But now that he's been killed off, I think that I still don't understand what it could be, because I was like, maybe he gave her some sort of abilities or something like that, but I'm like, it is technically a different version, so they can do whatever they want, really enhancing something minor with, Ra's al Ghul is not that big of a deal, because technically, Ra's al Ghul is not superhuman, he is just a normal dude, and I think I mentioned this before, he can die, there's no real crazy ways around it, he can just simply be killed off. They kind of changed that up a little bit with the whole blade thing, because technically he could be killed no matter what, as long as he gets to the Lazarus pit, it's totally fine, but it's not like he just resurrects automatically. So they kind of did change that up a little bit in this, where it's he had to be stabbed by the blade for it to happen, because that's not a thing otherwise. It's just if he dies and he happens to die. But being as old as he is, he seems superhuman, because he has, every form of martial arts and all these insane skills, and his endurance and his training that he's gone through mentally and physically basically makes him superhuman, because it's lifetimes worth of experience. So with what they did with him, being killed off, and going back to the scene with him and Barbara where he puts his hand to the glass, which is also something I've never seen, him truly utilizing magic in that specific sense, where it's actually within him, which I'm sure that's been in there quite a few times, and it's just stuff I haven't seen. But this is one of those moments where I was like, okay, he did something that is just full-on magic. He transferred something of himself to her, which they could totally say is just a spiritual thing, because it's the DC universe. There's certain elements of that where it doesn't specifically have to be magic, and it can be other magic-like sort of things. But I was just very curious. I was like, thinking about it now, I was like, what exactly does that mean? So him dying, I just don't know what that means, with him having given her this power. And it seemed like it was still the blade that officially killed him. It wasn't like he died and that was it. It was like, oh, I thought it had to be the blade or something. It was like maybe he transferred that essence over to Barbara. They still did it with the blade, so it's still kind of just up in the air exactly what he did to her and like what power he could have possibly given her. So I'm very curious what in the world they're going to be doing with Barbara now that she's been put into basically the position of Ra's al Ghul. Like he talks about how he brought her back to life and it was just it became far more than what he thought it was going to be. He was just training her initially and she became more than a student. So it was just interesting. It's like I don't know exactly what we should expect from her, but once again, Barbara's going to find herself in a very interesting position of power, and that kind of leads to the other story of this episode, which is Penguin. And man, is he being seduced. Like, just in every mental faculty, he is being completely screwed over. And I love the way that it's working because he has these plans. They even happened, which was a great moment, when Falcone, she goes to him. And so he talks to his assistant. It's like, hey, number 4 on my list. It's like, kill her. It's like, put a question mark on that. And she's like, thanks, I'll see you at dinner tomorrow. And so they go to dinner, and she finds the recipe that his mom used to make for goulash. And they have a moment when he eats it, and it's like exactly the same. And it freaks him out, and he's about to start crying. And so he takes off, like he leaves. And so she knows that it actually worked, and so she wasn't sure, because even the woman asked, like, did he hate it? And she's like, I really don't know. So of course she goes, and she's trying to continue, kind of having him basically get rid of his guard. Like, there's 0 guards, I think, by the end of this episode. Like, his guard isn't down, like, it's destroyed. And so she goes, and, he kind of freaks out, like, his foot is hurting, and so she's like, don't worry, I won't judge. So she takes his sock down, she, like, holds his arm, or puts her hands around his foot. And she tells the story about her mother, and it's like, I was told that it's actually, the cold actually makes things worse, and to relieve pain you need heat, and that's why she's, putting her hand on his ankle. And so, he's, because they were talking about their mothers, and he was like, my mother used to sing, and so she starts humming, and he legitimately cries, and I was like, man, this should be interesting when this, like, blows up in his face, because I don't know what that's going to mean for him, having this attachment where, like, she knows what she's doing, like, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds, because that was his thing in the show, is that his one true attachment, period, was his mother until, the stuff that happened in the last season when Ed came along and he fell in love with him, and then that fell apart too. So, he's only had really 2 attachments, like 2 true attachments in the entire series. Like, he worked for Fish Mooney, and, they had their odd relationship, especially after him betraying her initially. So, he had that attachment a little bit, but it was always his mother was it for him. And then, of course, she's killed, and that leads to some crazy hatred. Excuse me. Or some crazy actions due to the hatred. The hatred was definitely founded. But, that was all he had, and then, of course, him falling in love with Ed, and then how that just completely blew up in his face, and so he's just the businessman. He's Penguin again, just himself, no emotions. And then she brings back the first set of emotions with his mother, which is far beyond, like, him falling in love with Ed. It was still just like, it's his mom. And him crying during that scene, I was like, for one, it was just a great scene. But it was just like, man, I don't know what this means for his character and how horrible it's going to be when she ultimately ends up, helping Jim and she betrays him. And I do have to wonder how far she's going to push it. Like, even though she says she's there to just help Jim out and, get rid of Penguin, I wonder if at some point it's going to be like, I like this. I am meant for the, the family business sort of thing. Like she said, they'll put some line in there where she's like, I realize it really is in my blood, or, some random thing where it's like, you could just choose not to do that. But I'm sure they'll end up doing that. I feel like that's where it's actually headed, because she's way too good at it for it to be like, I'm just helping you get rid of Penguin. I'm like, she's an insanely evil genius, and I love it. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. Like this, I was already kind of excited because it was clear that it was working, but I didn't expect it to kind of almost reach its endpoint already in this episode, where she barely just got back, and she talks to him a little bit, and she was upset about, like she was just kind of playing the game, letting the other guys get killed off. And then in this one, it was her going on the attack officially, like setting things in motion. And I was like, man, this is going to blow up in his face. I don't know what that's going to mean for him. Still don't know what's going on with Ivy, but I'm sure that will not help in any way, shape, or form to secure Penguin at the top of, the criminal underworld. So he's already dealing with, being completely brainwashed at this point. and then Ivy's going to come in and just destroy him. Like, they're going to end up teaming up, or she's going to come in, and that's going to be another way for Falcone to kind of get on Penguin's good side, where he's like, you know, she decides to help him fight against Ivy, because still nothing there, still don't know what's going on with her. I'm just waiting. I'm like, you know, are they going to make her full green? What's the deal there? So, still waiting on that, but this is definitely an awesome episode. I love the way they handled the story. How crazy things got. You know, the fact that he's been completely tricked was great. Ra's al Ghul apparently actually dying is insane to me, because it's Ra's al Ghul, like I said. So I just don't know what that means. And then what he did with Barbara. So those two, or I guess those three moments together are like the craziest things to me. And of course we knew Solomon Grundy was coming in, but I'm just excited for that. Like, I don't know exactly where that's going to lead, but we haven't seen Tabitha in a minute. She hasn't been in like the past couple episodes. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. Like, him returning and her running into him, and it's like he's not the same person. He's not the man that, you know, she once loved. So I'm looking forward to how that's going to play out. She was never exactly friends with Ed either, so that's probably going to make things even worse, where she has to basically find some way to like sneak around this new version of Butch to get to Ed and basically hurt him all over again. So there are a lot of dynamics that are in motion right now that, like, it's just crazy. I don't know what to really expect for the storyline now, because so many things have happened. Reintroducing Lee, like what in the world that even means for her character, and just, you know, the show in general. So there's a lot to look forward to. I think I've said that for the past couple episodes, but they keep, like, one random thing will happen, or a couple in this episode's case, and it's just like, man, I'm very excited for what comes next, because it just keeps seeming to build up to something great, and then they do something crazy, like Ra's al Ghul is dead, and maybe Barbara's going to take over as the head of the League of Assassins, which would be nuts. But she also has some sort of powers, so I assume that that's what's going to happen, but we also don't know what the powers are. So there's just so many crazy things. Ed teaming up with Butch, what's going to happen, like I said, with Tabitha coming back into the fold and seeing Butch as Solomon Grundy, Lee being reintroduced, Penguin just being completely played right now. There's just a lot of elements that should be pretty entertaining. So I'm definitely looking forward to what's to come next. But of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I actually want to know what you guys think is going to happen with Lee's character. There's a lot to look forward to, a lot of theories based off of how a lot of different elements are going to play out. But because she was just reintroduced, and you know, the way they do her character, it always seems like she's just going to be gone forever, and then she comes in like halfway or something. I was honestly surprised that she even came back, that they even brought her back this early in the season, because that's kind of how they've done her character the past couple of seasons, because things just suck and she's always gone for a long time. So I was surprised that she even came back this early, but I would love to know your theories on what that means for the rest of the season, what you think her storyline might end up being, you know, as far as where she is, you know, as a character and working in this underground Fight Club. What does that mean for her character, and how that's going to affect, you know, the rest of the characters this season? So I'd love to know your theories on that. And of course, what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.